Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. I have my mic on mute. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. I appreciate that, Chris. You got any questions, just throw them in the chat on LinkedIn. It's a little better on YouTube if you want to come this way, but I definitely appreciate you for joining me. Give me one in the chat. You can hear me. Davey, glad you can join me. Took TI this weekend, missed the Stride question, so I'm here to learn. I haven't took it in about 15 years. I appreciate you, Umar Brown. Appreciate you, Chris. Appreciate you, Davey. Here, let me switch to what actually kicked this off. Shout out to Jeffrey Johnson. Oh, might happen if I can share would be nice. Why is it not showing up? Oh, there it is. There it is. Struggle streaming as always. Appreciate the ones. Regine, glad to see you. You know how we do it. If you got any tech or cybersecurity, drop them in the box. Let me make that a little bigger for me, the old people. I thought I made it bigger, but let's see. No, I don't usually do Google Sheets very often. I don't want to mess Chris Sheets up. He might get me. Let's see. Yeah, that's good enough. Let's see if that sees it. You see it right there. So we've been going over the risk register and study GRC. You see it right there highlighted. Account takeover compromise. Once again, Chris Whitlock and B Dubs are doing a great job in study GRC. So let me borrow their sheet. So they were going through and putting the risk register together for study GRC. Their nonprofit company. And one thing for them, obviously, was compromised takeover. You see it. Their risk is brand reputation and damage, data loss and exfiltration, financial loss, legal issues. So some of the things they came up with is weak password, phishing and malware, credential stuffing, lack of MFA. Right, those are the risks that they need to mitigate. And there, the A and the 3 was impact, and so times it comes up to 24. That's one of their highest risk for their company. Did I lose audio? Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Oh. Oh, cool. Okay, Davey, go check that out. Okay, let's keep going. So once again, I'm on their risk register in the study GRC. You see their impact came out to 24. They did an excellent job, but from the next step in GRC, the next step in NIST 800-53, next step in IRS Pub 1075 is threat modeling. So how would you go do an official threat modeling, walk through your app, and kind of come up with a more quantitative, once again, threat model to come up with, once again, the account takeover compromise and delve in a little deeper into that. When I was at the state working as a consultant for the state of Indiana, the IRS wanted us to do a threat modeling. So I had to actually come up with one. So this is a piece of that. So let's keep rolling. So what did that come out as? So let's kind of go through what that is. Once again, if you have any questions, there's a ton of different ways to do it. I actually liked how Study GRC did it. If you were a smaller company and a smaller org, I think that's all good, all good. No worries. PBOs always struggle streaming, they'll tell you. So for me, that's not a big issue. So let's kind of walk through what that would look like once again from a little more mature company, a little more mature organization. I think the first thing, and we talked about this, I actually talked about this on their stream, is when you talk about account takeover, especially from a system account, you have regular system account and privilege account, right? So if I'm just using my regular account, checking my email, doing some regular work, and a hacker got that, right? That's bad. It's different if I'm a DBA and I sudo or switch user inside of a Unix account, and the hacker got my privileged account, right? Then you could drop a database, steal all SSNs. So I think we need to delve down a little deeper in account takeover and talk about regular accounts versus privileged account. And the same thing with users. If somebody's client services, they answer the phone, answering questions, that's a regular business account. If they jump into the CFO or the payroll account or even account receivable, cut themselves a check or, give themselves some fake hours, even in the business, right? There's a regular account versus a privilege account. So when you go through and do your threat modeling or from the risk register, I would think you need to separate that in two, because as you go through, because part of the next phase, and I might do this next again, once we do our threat model, then we have to do our incident response, right? If you get hacked and it's a regular account, your response is going to be a little different than if it's a privilege account, both from a business side and a system side. So once again, that's going to tell you from a threat modeling, then once again, from a system regular account and a system privilege account. So let's keep digging down into that. So you said the Stride threat model is a systematic approach developed by Microsoft. Yeah, I'm not a huge Microsoft fan, but shout out to them, to help identify and categorize security threats in the system. It provides a structured way to analyze potential vulnerabilities and implement countermeasures. Shout out to Study GRC. Once we get back into their risk register, they did have countermeasures in there, right? We just hoping to build on it and dig a little deeper. So everybody knows I'm a NIST 853 guy / me. So from a 53 control family, from a threat model, it's risk assessment family. Primary categories for threat modeling is the risk assessment family. The RA3 is identify, analyze threat, vulnerabilities, and risks. RA4 is vulnerability monitoring and scanning, supports threats identification by continuous monitoring. How to relate to threat modeling, conduct a STRIDE for real world identifying risks, support proactive security assessments to mitigate threats before they're materialized. And that's really what you want to do, right? That's the big thing. Let me uncover that. Before they're materialized, right? You really want to beat the hacker and once again step through this. Once again, everybody know my favorite compliance is NIST 800-53. So once again, you see the risk assessment family, RA3, risk assessment, RA5, vulnerability and monitoring. So those are the security family and the security sub families that are actually under threat modeling. Also, it's under system service and acquisitions. System engineering principles ensure security is integrated into the system design using methodologies like threat modeling. Once again, SA15, develop process standards and procedures, encouraging secure design techniques, including threat modeling in the software development lifecycle. It relates to ensure security risk are identified before a system is developed. Encourage system by design, security and software development. So on the SDLC process, shout out to my man before the billion. So before he develops code, before they get into it, right? And we're gonna look at it. I'm actually gonna be Stride actually is a program written by Microsoft. Oh shoot, I forgot to bring it up. So we're gonna do it live and look at it and kind of walk through a model. And in that model, they kind of run through the risks when you develop certain models. So and we're gonna actually look at that. Shout out to my man before the billions. He always was doing the working sessions at night. So PBL is gonna try to do a little work tonight. So and see how that goes. But that's it. Once again, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat in the LinkedIn or the YouTube side. Let's keep going. Security assessment and authorization, the CA family. Security assessment, threat modeling, CA7, continuous monitoring, and how it relates, help assess how well security controls mitigate known threats, support continuous risk evaluation and response to evolving attack vectors. So once again, it's going through the NIST 853 security families where threat models actually impacts, and that's what they're asking for with these security families. Once again, inside NIST 800-53. That is my favorite compliance. I've been doing that off and on for 15 years. So this is actually what STRIDE stand for, and that's how it delves a little deeper. S is for spoofing. T is for tampering. R is for repudiation. I is for information disclosure. D is for denial of service. And E is for elevation of privilege. So you see those stolen credentials, altering database, modifying API records. So you're hitting those 6 things, and part of your threat modeling is hit each one of those 6. And we're going to walk through that for, once again, account takeover. So we're just going to talk about STRIDE a little bit more. How is STRIDE used in threat modeling? Identifying system components, breakdown of application and assets, users, data flow, and entry points. The data flow diagram, DFD, is to visualize the interaction. 2 is analyze potential threats used in STRIDE. And we looked at the categories, each STRIDE category to system components, authentication, API, and databases. Identify where attacker and vulnerabilities are located at. The big thing here, and I think they did an excellent job because they had their impact total number. Prioritize your risk, assess the likelihood impact for each identified threat. Rank threats using risk assessment framework. DREAD is another one similar to STRIDE. DREAD stands for damage, reproducibility, exploitability, affected users, and discoverability. Implement security controls, and they did an excellent job once again in their risk register, mitigating risk by applying best practices. One of the big ones, of course, is MFA and encryption, input validation, logging, and access control. Follow security frameworks, OWASP. We're going to look at OWASP at the end. They also have a threat modeling. And once again, the CIS benchmarks. Those are hardening benchmarks used to, once again, secure some of these vulnerabilities. The benefit of STRIDE, proactive security, help identify threats before they become exploited, structured approach, ensure comprehensive security analysis, easy to apply, work well with data flow diagrams and existing security frameworks, improve compliance with support for security standards like shout out to NIST 800-53, ISO 2701, and the OWASP. So those are known, once again, security controls and compliances. Let's see if I'm going to check to see if there's any questions. Once again, drop any questions on here. I'm going to drop the link in a moment if anybody wants to come up. Let's keep rolling. Account takeover protection is a set of security measures that prevent unauthorized access to user's account to help protect accounts even if a user log in credentials. Different level of accounts. We were talking about the user privilege, business privileges, how it works, identify suspicious activity. Account takeover protection looks for suspicious activity such as unusual login, location times, or session history. Limit login attempts. Limit the number of times someone can try to log in. My favorite, use two-factor authentication. Requires a second form of verification. IP blocklisting. Recognize repeating login attempts from the same IP address. Device tracking. Track where a user logs in from. The benefits, takeover protection can help prevent that. It can help protect users from having their account stolen. It can help organization mitigate malicious attacks without affecting legitimate users. So once again, that was account takeover. So let's um, go through the stride in that ATO, account takeover. ATO occurs when an attacker gains unauthorized access to user accounts. Below a stride-based threat model to analyze potential threats. So the first one is spoofing, impersonating a legitimate user. Credential stuffing, using leaked passwords from other breaches. Phishing attacks to steal login credentials. Man-in-the-middle attacks, intercepting authentication of data. Session hijacking, stealing session tokens. So mitigation controls, that's what Chris and them had in there. The big one was MFA, requires additional verification. Using FIDO on WebAuth, implementing phishing resistant attack. Those are hard YubiKeys that you can hook in. Trying more password policies, require complex, unique passwords, prevent users. Secure HTTP resistance, use secure HTTP cookies with flags like HTTP only and secure and same site. So when those are on web browsers that you can set to make sure nobody does a man-in-the-middle attack. So once again, we're going to walk through Stride for account takeover and just probably just add a little more detail to what they had into their risk register. So once again, if there's any questions, just put them in the chat. I'll drop the link if anybody wants to come up while I go through the Stride. Then we're gonna do a little working session where we actually walk through Stride and actually walk through Microsoft's tool. Let's see how that goes. I'm gonna do it live. That's usually bad news for me. So let's keep going. So tampering, altering data to gain unauthorized threats. So from the account takeover, cookie tampering, modifying authentication cookies, JWT token tampering, altering JSON web tokens to escalate privileges. A lot of times in the website behind the scenes, you can't see it, but they have tokens, JSON tokens. If you can steal those, you can impersonate the users. Once again, escalate the privileges. Parameter manipulation, modify login forms or API requests. In the old days, they used to have it in the URL string, so you could change stuff in the URL string to actually jump into different parts of the website. Once again, we're a lot more secure now. So what's the mitigation of that? Once again, we're on T for tampering. Use sign an encryption token, prevent JWT manipulation by enforcing signature verification. Implementing secure session storage, store session data securely and validate integrity. Input validation and sanitization, prevent authorized changes and parameters. So really, from a GRC perspective, you would give those to the development team, and the development team would actually put those into effect. But you as a GRC person at a high level needs to understand who needs to do those changes and how do you test that those changes were done. So that's kind of, when you do interviews, a lot of times they ask you, how would you validate a certain mitigation, right? How would you validate enforcing signature verification? How would you validate implementing secure session storage? A lot of times this is just a setting inside the browser, right? If you're in Active Directory, right? In an Active Directory, they have different OUs, and the OUs, they have settings for browser, laptop, login, so all of that. And we're going to walk through that in different videos. What do those look like so you can understand, once again, how to test them. But once again, account takeover, that was the T for tampering. So let's keep rolling. R for repudiation. Repudiation is denying unauthorized action. A user claimed that they did not perform an action. Password changing, login from a new device. Lack of logging prevents the tracking of account activities. So many mitigations for that: enable audit logging, record login attempts, IP addresses, and device fingerprints. Use immutable logs, store logs securely. Immutable means that you just can't change the logs. They're like uh, write once, then you can read them a ton of times, but you can only write once and you can't modify them. Implement user notification, alert users of login attempts and password changes, right? So that's repudiation, denying an unauthorized action, right? So I'll probably send those to Chris and see if he wants to add anything additional to his risk register. But once again, a repudiation. I don't think they're logging very much yet. That could be kind of pricey when you start logging. So let's get to the information disclosure, leaking sensitive data, expose passwords and logins or error message, insecure API response revealing user details, leak session tokens or cookies, mitigations of that, avoid sending sensitive data in the URLs. They used to do that in the 2000s. Use secure session handling instead of query parameters. Mask sensitive data and logs, and ensure password tokens and PII are not stored in plain text. I still see that a lot. A lot of times developers, you can up your detail of your logging when you try to debug stuff. A lot of times if something happened in production, they want to up the logging. But a lot of times when you up the logging, you start showing everything. So you got to be careful with that, man, and how you implement that. Use HTTPS everywhere. Enforce TLS to encrypt the communication. So yeah, we're talking about now every page should be really SSL and TLS behind the scenes to sort of be all your data be encrypted in motion, right? So none of your data could be looked at, not even by accident, because you're gonna force all your pages to be HTTPS. So once again, I didn't see that in Chris's risk register, but we'll go back and look at it. I'll probably add a few things to it since we're actually going once again through the stride technique. The D, denial of services, preventing legitimate access. Credential stuffing, automatic brute force login attempts. Account lockouts, attacker triggers excessive failed logins to lock out legitimate users. Resource exhaustion, attackers flood authentication servers with requests. Rate limiting and captcha. Captchas uses that image where they ask you to type it. The image got slices and dashes in it, so it's hard to read. So that's the captcha. Uh, Account lock-in policies, temporary lockout with increasing delays for failing login. Using a firewall WAF, use web application firewall to filter malicious traffic and bad IP addresses. So once again, that's denial of service. The D in stride. So we rolling through. Once again, I drop the link if anybody wants to come up. No pressure. No pressure. And two is, once again, we're going through the stride technique. It's a little formal way to come up with your risk for your app. The E, elevation of privileges, gaining unauthorized access. Threats, privilege escalation via weak API permissions. Broken access control, following attackers to access admin features. OAuth token abuse to hijack accounts. Mitigation, role-based access control. Limit users' permission based on roles. Enforce OAuth scope, restricts what third-party apps can do within your user. Privilege, minimize permissions for user and services. And part of that role base, what screens can you go to and what screens can you not? And even in your role, what services can you run in the background and what you cannot? And once again, the enforce OAuth scopes, what third parties can do. Everybody's now is connected to some third party. So make sure you're limiting that what that third party can do inside your application. Once again, that's the E. In stride, the last one, elevation of privileges, gaining unauthorized access. So let's go check out. Let me start that up. PBO did not pre-start this. So once again, if you shout out to Excel Pro, thanks for joining me. Here, so let's share. And we're gonna kind of build one on the fly, but I pre-built one. Pre-built what you say? This is Stride. See if I can see it. Uh, I think that's it. Let's see who's coming up. I think I know who it is. Oh, I heard it. Oh, there it is. Just Jupiter.
Can you hear me?
I can't. That was me. All right,
Oh, I'm just, I'm just jumping in. So is you.
you
Yeah,
good.
just yeah. I'm just well. I'm looking at this your threat model, but yeah, I just got an offer at a drone company, defense company, just little cyber, these little things analysis. Yeah,
Well, that's
so I'm
cool.
just waiting on my start date.
Congratulations, man. That's hard out here, man. People,
I put it to this. It paid way more than my previous company radio.
oh, you win it, then you win it. So here, let's go through this. Let me see if I can try to get this. We're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work. So here is if you look at the images on the right, it shows you generic data flow, generic data store, generic external indicator, generic purpose. Obviously, those are Microsoft Active Directory Service, Azure Active, Azure Data Explorer. So what I did is I just created a three-tier web app, which is common. So you see the browser right there. So I just put over the browser image and we're gonna do. You got your web application there, your application server there, then just a database store. Then the data flow, I just showed some basic requests, which would be just a screen from a web browser, going to a web application, which could be Tomcat or IIS, going to, I'm sorry, which would be, um, IIS or Apache. Then once again, the app server could be IIS or Tomcat. Going through a database, which could be Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL. So just a basic application flow, nothing super duper. Once again, just something basic, just to kind of get a flow of seeing how Stride would work.
Yeah, yes. Speaking of which, of this company I just started, so it's basically they're growing. So, and I kind of they're growing, and I already have my head on a swivel on what they need. Besides identify, categorize, how you going to
Hmm.
protect it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, look, so when you grow these companies, like you need to start, first assess your personnel, and I'm looking at your threat model.
Hmm.
We'll just use that, how you have your web server. Just make sure you have your WAF or your web application whatever firewall. Whatever. There you go.
No,
You
five,
know,
five.
it always have that defense layer. But I'm just going to throw that out there.
No, you're right. And I was actually looking for it. I didn't see it inside my images. So that's one thing I need to look up. I didn't, which is weird. You think Microsoft would have some kind of firewall in there, but you are correct. Once again, I said it was basic, but you're right. You want to have your WAF. You definitely want to have whatever you run a Cisco or Juniper, whatever kind of firewall you run as a company. So you want to have your WAF and your infrastructure firewall in there. You kind of want to have those two layers. So you're 100% correct. Chime in on that before the billions. I'm trying to be like you, man. I got a working session, man. You my role model. I'm trying to do it on the fly. What's going on tonight?
Hey, what's up, PPO? What's up? Is it Jupiter Love?
Yes, Jupe.
Jupiter?
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
that's it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me up, man. I couldn't hear what you just said, so I had to catch you on the next one.
No,
But
that's fine. Just at a
yeah.
high level, I was just creating a data flow diagram. This tool is going to walk through us with the threat modeling. So, basically a browser, web server, app server, and a database. So just kind of walking through. Then we're going to put it in the view of analyze view. Then if you
Hmm.
see, once you click on that uh, that boundary I put, it shows you what it believes that they show you some attacks on your web server. So we're just gonna kind of walk through these at a high level. So if you look at the bottom, I thought these were interesting. So it just kind of helps you walk through and gives you the attack vector. It says adversary may bypass critical steps before action, behalf of victims due to improper validation logic. This one is elevation of privileges, so it shows you possible mitigation. So it shows us like from this basic model, it shows you 32 things you need to check from a threat model to make sure, once again, you're setting up your site securely. So go ahead and chime on that B2B if you want any of
I mean, I think was it that data governance, that making sure that you're protecting and monitoring your data
that.
is
Yeah.
extremely important. I went to a it's called Thai, not Thai Atlanta, Tag Atlanta. So the Technology Association of Georgia, they had an event talking about data governance
Mm-hmm.
and how a lot of these companies, they don't want to invest in data governance because who actually owns it? Because even technology, from a corporate standpoint, you got to see who it even falls under. Like IT sometimes falls under like the CIO or the chief
Mm-hmm.
information officer, and a lot of companies don't even have a CDO, a chief data officer,
Mm-hmm.
to oversee something like this,
Facts.
because there's a lot of overlap between security and also managing their data. One
Mm-hmm.
of the things that they suggested to like improve on the monitoring and improve on, looking at the data, the governance, is by having a data governance board for a corporate like
Mm-hmm.
business structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really interesting. No, I don't know if you've ever heard of that PPO, or
I
of a
have.
company doing that, but yeah. So I thought
I
that
used,
was pretty interesting. But they one of the issues that they brought up with having like a data board is that there's a lot of different ways that people want to do things,
mm-hmm.
and it's kind of a lot of chaos and a lot of butting heads, in
Yeah.
practice.
Now, in real life, I was in a meeting probably a couple of years ago, and I was arguing with my young homie Dwight. He's getting the privacy, and
Mhm.
basically, they wanted to collect too much data for me from a privacy standpoint. And I brought that up, and he told me that's how we get monetized, and that's how we pay you. So basically, shut the hell up. So,
But but here's
go
the thing.
ahead.
Why would
Yeah.
okay that we were trying to define line with that because I'd be like okay, now I'm gonna go back to the governance part. I'm like, look, do you have a need to know separated the duties
Yeah.
like that? I'm like, come
Mhm.
on, you can't have all the the bowl of
Yes, you
cereal.
can. Yes, you can.
Okay,
If you making a company a couple $1 million, yes, you can. But go ahead, Jupiter. I know
okay,
what you're saying.
I get what you said. And you know what? Look, if you sign in my paycheck, I'll be like, okay,
No, no, but this
but
is
here's
what
the
I
thing, and I'm
go
gonna land my
ahead.
plane with this one. Here's the thing: you go to do it, hey, you know what? Just sign this document, or
Facts.
make sure I make sure there was some documentation that I told you
That,
this, so that way you don't throw me underneath the bus
yeah,
when it happens to you.
oh man,
Yeah.
they be brutal now. But you're right. I documented, and I just said, "Does that need to know?" He said, "Yeah, we need to know it." I was like, "I'm cool with it," because I'm writing it in
Yeah.
the notes. And I
Hey,
try, and me and Dwight, and that happens in real life, man. If the company's gonna make money on, it, they're gonna tell you the pound cent, which I'm perfectly cool with. I did my job, and you overruled me. You wanted to accept that risk of us collecting too much data. Go ahead, B2B.
PPO, I got asked this question recently, and I didn't know how to answer because I never experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
But they asked me a question about ethics,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically with data, and they
Mm-hmm.
were saying, "Have you ever been asked to do something that may be illegal, or may go against like your morals or something like that when it comes to like
Mm-hmm.
data or information?" So when you say that, I'm like, I've never run into that per se, but
Oh,
something like that may have happened. I just didn't
the
notice.
oh, I know. So I tell you, the cool thing is when you work for big companies that usually have data governance, they usually have a legal department. So
Hmm.
I tell them in their face, I'm fine with it. I just need to shoot this to legal. Then it's not
Hmm.
on me. On ethics, I tell people I have ethics. Um, it's his risk to take. I can't overrule the business. Now, if he's gonna do something illegal, once again, I'll just say I need legal to chime in on it. Then I'm off the hook. Then if I don't like it, like the guy said he wants solid data, I'm cool with that. He's the business owner. I stated it. I think this is too much data for what you're trying to do as the business. But once again, you're the business owner. If you want to accept the risk, and I say it like that, I'm fine with it. PBO is gonna
And
sleep well at night. Just sign my check. Go ahead, Jupiter.
yeah, and you know what you said, the magic words right there. I'm like, look, and the company I'm about to work for, it's not small, but it's not big. So it's, dealing with, like I said, with drones and all that stuff. But thing is,
Mhm.
it's like, look, there's a lot of head butting going on. And I'd be like, look, I would say my piece. And but here, and I'm not going to lose any sleep because first off, it's not my company. So look, I'll say my piece and I'll make sure their legals in the mix. Be like, hey, look,
Yeah.
you can't have all the information, but if you want it, hey, you got it. Just make sure
Oh,
legal is in the mix when you have a data breach or a leak or whatever. And hey, I did my part.
yeah. A lot of times too is if I'm, which I'm never the head guy, but if my boss's boss not in there, I just say I'm gonna shoot it up to the seesaw. I'm gonna put you on there, and I'm gonna let y'all work it out at a level above me. Just let me know what y'all want to do. That's me. I'm snitching on you, but hey, I'm not in it, man. And like I said, I've only done that a couple of times, but I tell them up front, I'm just gonna shoot it up the chain, man. You shoot it up the chain and let the bosses argue with it. I'm not arguing with you.
And I don't get paid to deal with that. I
No,
just get paid to enforce the
the
governance. That's it.
the word you need to use before the billions is I'm assessing the risk for you. I'm highlighting the risk for you. It's a business decision after that. Because 9 times out of 10, it's not illegal, right? It's unethical. They shouldn't do it. They're in the gray area, right? They actually might be on the land for red, collecting too much data. At most, you're gonna get a fine. You're not going to jail. I mean, hell, Google was walking around snatching everybody's Wi-Fi while they were taking a picture of your damn house. They got a fine. Didn't nobody go to jail. Hell, they took half the United States information.
Oh, damn, I ain't realized that. So when you
Yeah,
see the Google cars going
yeah.
around,
Google,
they take a picture.
they take a picture and they were snatching people's Wi-Fi IP address so they can link it back when you log on. Just Google.
Mm.
I saw that. Yeah. So that wasn't a big deal. But once again, let me hit this slide once again. So as you see on the screen, once you do that simple map, we have the browser to the web server. That's the boundary right there. Would be your cloud vendor. You going from the wild of you working from home, or you working from your phone, and you going into the boundary, the secure boundary, being Azure, AWS. Shout out to Before the Billions. He's a Google guy. I still ain't made it there yet. Shout out to Oracle, but that represents them. So once you get behind their walls, right, you have to log in to get into that web server. That's one of the boundaries. So once again, those checks right there, when we click on them, we go through a few more. Those show you the mitigations and asking you what are you doing for this particular, once again, authentication, encryption, secure cookies, so nobody can take your session from your browser. So those go through and list possibilities of attack, and you just have to, and it tells you what you should be doing so that wouldn't happen. Like we were going through the slides. So
You
chime in
know,
on that. Beat before the
P,
beat.
PBO, I'm learning AWS and Azure now. I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
more experience with things outside of Google.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't really care for Google.
Google's cool. It's in the mix. You know I'm an AWS guy.
Uh-huh. I wanted to ask you. So I went to an event earlier today, and they were talking about something regarding threats,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a model called SWOT analysis. Have you ever heard of that
Yep.
before?
Yeah. Strengths, weakness, and opportunities. That's more of a business thing, not a computer thing. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was when they brought it up earlier. I thought it had something to do with that.
They might have changed it. They might have changed. They add so much stuff. For me, a lot of people don't know. So I have an MBA, so I think of that usually more from a business perspective and not a computer perspective. But they could have changed it up because here I got another slide. OWASP, their threat model, and there's one called Pasta. There's like 3 or 4 well-known other models besides Stride. And the Stride I looked out there, they haven't been updated since October 2023. So I got to see if they're still updating their software.
hmm But yeah, man. Something else. I was talking to a cybersecurity. He's a manager here in Atlanta, and he was talking about how he will not hire anybody unless they have at least minimum a security plus, and simply because they need to be able to speak the language of this and be able to tell the difference between like a risk, a threat, and a vulnerability.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of
Overrated.
well,
Go
yeah.
ahead, Jupiter.
Oh,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
well,
Chris.
honestly, well, for the government, you need a Sec Plus, but Sec Plus, I hated that exam. It's such a vast exam which covers everything. But yeah, I mean, if you can't speak the cyber lingo, like, or know what you're talking about, or have some type of idea, then you're kind of like a liability. Yeah, I'm not to say a liability. You're out of the fray in a sense. And another thing I would tell some cyber people, have some basic IT fundamentals, because
Facts.
that's like, you'd be surprised people who do not have a basic IT fundamentals at all.
Oh yeah,
My only little pushback, and Jupiter's 100% correct, is, and we can train you on all of that, man. To be
Oh yeah, you correct.
and I think that's kind of the gatekeeping part. And at DLD, we ain't gonna let you touch shit until you. I was trained for 10 years, and it took me 3 years to get the DLD has their own verbiage, and the
Hmm.
government has a different verbiage. So all of that stuff you can be trained on.
Yeah, because the question they were asking me, like the RMF framework, which is this right here.
Yeah,
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 I was like, dude, it depends on your structure, what you want. You have the smaller NIST for your smaller companies, then you have the bigger RMF framework
yeah.
for the bigger
You got the
projects.
CFS for the smaller one. Then I'm 800-53, so that's usually for bigger companies. Even though I do implement it as smaller, but 9 times out of 10 they do the NIST CSL or the CIS benchmarks. Then NIST
yeah,
800-53 because it's for federal. It's usually bigger companies and bigger agencies.
yeah. And so let me bring this up. So the guy who I was talking about, he also works for the government as well. And I don't know if he ever encountered this PBO, where he called it people trying to play hero ball or
Mm-hmm.
trying to play hero.
Superman.
W- And then he gave the example of somebody he like one of his people who like, one of his employees that he hired on. He was newer to the team
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't have that much experience, but they asked him to like look at whatever risks that may be coming up
Mm-hmm.
or like any I think like they were doing some monitoring, and then some ping came up, and they said, "Hey, can you look at this?"
Mm-hmm.
And then he looked at, it, he's like, "Okay, everything's fine." And then it turned out to be a big, a big deal to where like the Department of Defense reached out to him and gave him
Yep.
a call, and then
Mm-hmm.
he gave him a call like late at night, 9 o'clock or something like that, saying, "Oh, how's everything going?" And then he was playing a video game and then, okay, I'll go ahead and check into whatever the ping was earlier. He said, okay, it's all right. I'll stay on the phone and wait till you get your computer. So it was like a big deal to
Yeah.
where like the manager had to come in and turned out that the what was it, the vulnerability was so, I guess, high risk
Mm-hmm.
that it got people involved where people's data was breached.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that before. A lot of times we didn't get breached, but it opened us up and somebody was trying to move it, but we had MFA and some other tools that caught it. But the first
Yeah,
level, the SOC guy said it was good, it wasn't good, it just got caught on the back end. So you can get your ass fired. That's why a lot of times I don't do a lot of SOC. Because something
yeah,
looks minor, you can be like, oh shit, you just got all our data stolen. So
And that's the thing with
yeah,
sock, and so I couldn't do sock because sometimes a
yeah,
lot of those false negatives right there, they can really
hmm,
throw you off, because like I said, and
fact,
now your adversaries are getting really good with their TTPs and stuff, like, you're
facts.
not going to know. And it's depending on your network infrastructure, then the user on the other end, if they download a stupid file, or they're moving the malware, and then all he is just living off the land.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't be a stock analyst.
Shout out to Gabe. He always talking about living on the land. He said his favorite thing was pivoting off of your print directories because we don't usually lock
Yeah.
down our printers. we did some, and we was actually, I don't want to give out too much information. We was printing in our state governor's office one day by accident. We like, I don't think we should be able to see that. So yeah, living off the land is easy
Yeah,
now because just
because
we got so much stuff out there now. But go
yeah,
ahead.
because if you go on the services, all you had to do, well, I do a little CTS. If you get to the services part, just
Um,
get that script, you be just boom, 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 and yep,
yeah, then you start, horizontal elevating privileges, then you off and running,
yeah,
and we
I
looking
got that domain
crazy.
control. Yeah, I got that domain
Yeah.
control.
Hmm.
Yeah, then you off and running. So yeah, so that's why let me go through this program a little bit. So once we go through each one of these diagrams, 1 and 2, let's look at diagram 3. This is as adversary may gain access to sensitive data from the log files. Once again, stride category. This was the I information disclosure. Adversary may gain access to sensitive data from log files. We saw that in the slide. So um, ensure the application does not log sensitive data to your log files and restrict access to your log files. Security from this perspective is a high because once again, you could have SFCN or people's HIPAA information in log files. So you want to make sure you have that locked down. Chime in on that, Jupiter. Jupiter, you there? He must step out. B2B, you want any of that?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I had to do something real quick.
That's
So what was
fine.
it?
You
What
could.
was it? What was it? Now I got you. What is
No, it
it?
was sending sensitive information to log files. Locking
Yeah,
down your log file. Don't really log sensitive information. And if you do, of course, restrict it. I said you could have people SSN and HIPAA information in your log files.
yeah.
So I
And
said chime in on that.
another thing is with your log files. Well, if you're going to do RDP or the SSH, well, you better make sure they have each one of your users are designated a key. You know the
Mm-hmm.
key. So and then make sure you rotate those keys or change
Oh
those
yeah.
keys either I don't,
Yeah.
whoever however the company structure is at least every month, and make sure you have those privileged users having that access to SSH and with the key.
Facts.
Now another thing is with RDP. Or if you don't secure, now
Oh
I
my
don't know
God.
how. Now I don't know how most companies have RDP. Like in my previous company, RDP is a no. No, you better be a
Yeah.
system admin, a
Yeah.
system
Very.
admin RDP. That's basically it. Oh,
Facts.
FTP. I forgot all about FTP. A lot of
We
I
blocking.
find like FTP. I find a lot of people don't have passwords on
Mhm.
FTP. So that's
We
another thing.
blocking. We blocking port 2022 off the bat. Oh,
Oh,
is it
okay.
2020? Yeah,
20,
2023. Three is secure. 2020, 2021, and
20,
2022
20,
is
yeah.
it's open FTP. I'm getting ready for my CISP. I got to get back on my ports and protocols.
So,
Yeah,
Ready for.
yeah.
so y'all
All right.
can't. So you wouldn't be able to use like a WinSCP, would you?
Yeah, when FCP is encrypted, so that'd be 23. We'll let that open.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
them,
Yeah.
encrypted.
and
There's
those
something
like I
that you
said,
brought up. Okay, go ahead, Jupiter.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
I was going to bring up that something that you said, PBO, about the logs,
Yeah.
and something I've run into a lot is that sometimes we just keep logs for too long, and
We
it's
well,
like,
not to interrupt, I'm the IRS. They say you got to keep them 7 years. So go
okay,
ahead. IRS says you got to keep them.
Yeah,
Feds
my
want you to
last
yeah,
keep them 5, I
I
think.
well,
last company we had to keep them for 3.
So yeah. So
yeah,
it depends
but
depends on your agency and who you're working. Go ahead before B2B. Depends on your agency.
yeah, but I mean, if you do have to keep them, archive them, because
Yeah.
as a data engineer, I'm running into where we have like a raw table, and
Mm-hmm.
like it just has like data from 10 years ago, and
Oh yeah.
nobody, you can't even open up the table to see how many rows it's in there. Can't query it. It's
Yeah.
just sitting
We
there.
Yeah, we were talking about that. When should you archive them? In Oracle, you can do partitions. So a partition is a year of your data. So it's easy to prune partitions. Then when you query it, Oracle makes it easier to query multiple partitions. So from that standpoint, you can just delete a partition. And you can say your partition is a quarter of a year or a whole year, depending on how big it is. So it makes it easier to delete. Or you can just archive a partition. If you need it, you can just reattach it. So I know from an Oracle standpoint, for big data, that's how they were handling it.
Yeah, man, because some of the processes will mess up too.
Oh
Just
yeah.
even trying to run jobs, like you'll have. a raw table that has everything. You have the history table that has it organized and structured, but then you need to use that as like maybe a source table, or sorry, your raw table is your source table, your
Mm-hmm.
history table, your destination, but you need to do an insert select, and it just
Mm-hmm.
takes forever for you to be able to query, and it makes things just run longer.
Yeah. So on your queries, hopefully, you gotta get your indexing down, right? Your global indexing and your partition indexes. So hopefully when you're querying, the index is cutting it down. But now you're right. That means, too, from a data warehouse or data lake, you gotta have it architected correctly. Domains with your other lookup tables and your time dimensions. So hopefully when you query it, all that comes together. Let me read this quick chat.
Mhm.
FTP, that crap should have gone out with the disco in the 1990. Too many services are still used. This insecure transfer protocol. Yeah, shout out to FTP. I still see it out there a lot. Shout out to Struggle Security. We were just talking about him. That's the guy be living out the land. So shout out to him. We were talking about that on a stream a couple years ago. I don't want to give out too much information, but he definitely be living out the land. So shout out to
Yeah,
Struggle Security.
because if you do that Nmap scan, if you see that port, I'd be like,
Uh,
oh, that's like the low hanging fruit. Just let me see
oh,
what's in there. If it doesn't have a password, and
the-
heaven forbid if it's a web, if it has a port 80 or something, a web server,
oh my God.
put that ASPX thing in there, and then have my reverse shell. I'm got
Yeah, I was at a large client and they had protected zones for different agencies and stuff. And I happened to do an Nmap slow scan on mine. I was seeing our other agencies. They were like, "Oh, you can only see your agency." I brought the Nmap. I go, "That's incorrect." They were like, "Oh shit, we got to work on that." I'm like, "Dude, you got our data being seen by other departments. This is not cool." So, uh, even from a GRC perspective, like you said, you need some IT background so you can check some stuff when people say they have it configured a certain way. Just a simple Nmap scan will let you know what
you.
ports
Yeah.
are open and what things you can see, and it's not hard to run. So, uh,
No, just get that subnet, or you just just give me that domain controller. Be like,
yeah.
boom, just
So,
give me that rage.
so for me, like I said, he said we had a certain uh, protect is on and we can only see our stuff, but that was incorrect. I was seeing other people's stuff. Okay, what anonymous login on FTP is amazing. Shop. Yeah, that's sad that's still out there. But like my man security expert said, that should have been out like disco in the 90s. Struggle Security said anonymous is still out. I do see that out there a little more than I would like.
That sounds
But
crazy. You can't even log into the VM without them knowing at least your serial number for your computer.
people be lacking. Let me go through one more of these. Once again, that's our stride right there. You see it. I just did a browser request, just sending some basic information. Then once again, I'm touching on a request to the browser. We're going to scroll down to number 7. An adversary can gain access to different information through error logs. Once again, that's similar to your logging. A lot of times, it's best when I do Java, I used to see people force it the application to error, then it would just put up two information. It would show you the web server, the version, the all kind of stuff that you can force it to error. So once again, it's kind of like the file, the logging. Do not expose security details in the error message, right? You want to make sure your error message is enough to give your developers, but are not enough to give your hackers to attack you. So that's what uh, that's what the error is. Once again, we're using the stride technique. It came up with 32 uh, particular things we would need to check once again for our threat modeling. A lot of times I don't see threat modeling done a lot. I see it done at a high level. Shout out to Study GRC inside their Google map. They're doing threat modeling. It just wasn't I would say a intricate way like this using tools to help you do a threat model. They had like 4 or 5 great things in there. They're showing you 32 things to get you started to make sure once again you cover the gamut of threats that would actually attack a web application. And once again, it's probably 80%, right? There's some novel attacks that people are now doing with buffer overflows in the background type stuff, but you got to get to 80 before you get to the 20. So you want to chime in on that, Jupiter? Let's see.
I'm good. I'm just listening.
Okay. No, that's fine. You want anything on that B2B? You got any other questions? Keep rolling.
I don't really know too much about. some of
Okay.
the, like I see the comment from Gabe from Struggle Security.
No, that's
Don't really
my
know too
bad.
much about them.
My bad, LinkedIn user. It was 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. Late night with PBO. Shout out with Struggle Security, FTP, SNMP, version 1, Telnet. More all run rampant in critical infrastructure. All
Oh
facts like
god, I
water.
forgot about Telnet. Oh my, that's the
uh,
one. That's the other port you. I forgot
yeah.
all about Telnet.
So, yep, facts. So they still out there and people still running a lot about that. But two, that's one thing where you look at your ports and protocols, especially, but they can run it. But if your firewall's not letting any of that through, right? I think Jupiter was talking about firewalls coming in. I still got to figure out how to put firewalls in my strat diagram, but you should have you should have infrastructure firewall, Cisco, Juniper. If you're in the cloud, AWS has their firewall, Azure has their firewall. Then Jupiter brought up your WAF, your web application firewalls. And shout out to Gabe. He knows he hates the STIGs or the CIS check. They will actually want you to have firewalls on your instance. If you're
Yeah,
running Windows or Linux, they actually want you to have firewalls at the host level. So theoretically, you should have 3 sets of firewall blocking FTP, SNMP
yeah,
version 1, Telnet. So all those should be blocked at those different endpoints. So people should not be able to run those. Go
yeah.
ahead,
And
Jupiter, chime in
it's
on that.
circle it back to the STIG because the company just your STIGs are your go to set up your network. Like if when anything else, that STIG right there, you just go line by line on how to secure whether it's a workstation or your infrastructure. Bam,
Right.
line by line. Oh, set this password complexity, any lockouts. That right there, it's like it's like a condom. It will save you right there if you follow
No,
all those steps. If you follow the steps right.
no
Yeah,
facts.
they even have firewalls in GitHub.
Oh, facts, facts. Everybody was putting their tokens and leaving them in GitHub. They actually had to put a process in that because developers were getting sloppy and leaving root tokens in their code. I'm like, dude, y'all getting companies
Hmm.
hacked on a humble. So, no facts.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
let me
everything's parameterized when you go to when you put it up in GitHub.
no facts. So here, let me switch back on this diagram real quick. Back to design. Once again, it was simple. I put the browser there. You see the images. So external, I put the browser. Then they have web app in there. Then once again, when you click on those, oh, I got to put back to the other view. Let me see. I think this is probably Gabe. I heard come up. I'm struggle streaming.
Yeah.
Is that Gabe? What's that? Yep, struggle security. I gotta get better with restream. What's up, man? I was talking about you,
Hey,
man.
what's
You
up,
must have
yo?
What's up,
heard it.
Gabe?
You must have
Hey,
heard me
hey, what's
talking
up, everybody?
about you, man. What's going
Nah,
on? I
man,
said
I
that
ain't
you
hear
were living out the
nothing.
land. I said, Gabe, you living out the
Man,
land, man. I
Yeah,
gotta
I'm
block him.
just,
Go ahead, Gabe.
I'm trying to make it, man. I'm just trying to make it. I've been busy. I ain't been able to catch one of your lives in a long time, but definitely happy to be here, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you came up, man. Let me see what my man
Hmm.
security expert says. Problems with firewalls and wires if they do not protect critical infrastructure related to services with deliberate and accidental. It's all facts. I
oh
don't.
yeah,
That's more of Gabe. I let Gabe chime in. I don't deal with critical infrastructure because I don't get the tool set I like. Go ahead on that,
Yeah.
Gabe. Chime in on that.
No, it's super common. I mean, you think about like oil and gas environments, or even nuclear, or water, or transportation. People that pretty much are a part of the organizations are vendors and third parties. I mean,
hmm
they're working to manage your environments. They're updating like operations and maintenance. I mean, they almost have a badge that gives them unrestricted access inside of your environment. So, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, there's nothing you could do against that. They could bring a
well,
Yeah.
dirty laptop or USB drive, and I mean, if you're not scanning those things or putting them through the same security measures that you're putting your regular employees through, then I mean, game is
Yeah.
on.
oh,
Yeah. Man. Go
and a
ahead, Jupiter.
circle. Oh, and a circle
Hmm.
back. So yeah, well, the company that I just got hired now. I interviewed for another one. So
Hmm.
this was going to be a stickler right here. So I was going to be a security engineer or whatever the heck it is. So
Hmm.
it was pretty much going to be babysitting. I was going to be dealing with 5 different vendors, from the vulnerability vendors, the supply
Hmm.
chain vendors, the pen testing vendors, some other vendors, and I'm like the pretty much the go between dealing with all those personalities.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I got to sit those board meetings and deal with the other businessmen and all that stuff. Meanwhile, dude, that is a big headache right there doing it, and
Hmm.
that's why I couldn't do it because I'd rather have my own business. Because if you're dealing with the vulnerability manager, the pen testing manager, the software managers, that can be really it can be a burnout right then and there. And it's all the
Hmm.
pressure on you. Now that's on my plane.
Now it's a lot of entities to manage. I mean, but hey,
Mm.
yeah.
The cool thing is I'm in the middle of them, but I don't manage them. So, which sucks because I usually do a risk assessment with the vendors before we sign them up. We send them our questionnaire, but hell, they could be lying on it. So, but you
Hmm.
know what? How do you validate a vendor at least at a high level to come in? The big thing I think a lot of people cheat on in structured security and know this is if you're big like IBM, you must be good. So we just hire the big boys and pray that they're good, right? So that's what a lot of bigger companies do. If you got enough size and you got some FedRAMP and some three-letter agencies in your company bio, we think you good. So
Well, a lot of times the
Hmm.
management, like the business owners, they be like, "Nah, we want that right there." But if you know off the word on the street, they been shady. Hey, okay, look, if you want it, do it. We told you not to date her. This is what you want. This is yours right here.
no facts. You
Hmm.
want to chime in on that struggle?
Nope. No, that's good. Yeah, that
Now,
makes sense.
yeah, let me go one more last time over the stride. Like I said, I did a little baby threat modeling app. I thought it was cool,
Hey,
especially
TBO, can I ask this
yeah.
question?
Always B2B. Chime in, man. Always.
Yeah, so I remember Jupiter, you were talking about how you're around all these business people and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
the high
project
level,
managers too.
yeah, high level people and stuff. And I'm thinking, do you get opportunities from just meeting or being in the same room with these people?
You get to learn how they think. I always say this for cyber guys, or any learn how corporate finance and procurement. If
Hmm.
you learn that, like corporate finance, you get to know how they think, how what they're put their money to, what their budget and their money is going to. If you can learn that, then yeah, you know what the project managers what their intent is. But if you learn corporate finance, you would know how the business thinks and where their direction's going. Because, like I said, well, I'm gonna speak for me. Cyber is an afterthought, or they try to do the lowest amount possible just to make sure it's that check in a box standard. That's it.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think
Hmm.
before the big, yeah, because I've got opportunities. Because if people like your work and they can trust you, right? When they move into other organizations, I get calls a lot of times from people asking me, "There's a availability open because they work with me and they saw my work." So yes, once you're at those levels, of one of my ex bosses, she works for a big company, and I told her I was looking for a job at the time. She said, "Go on the website, find something you like, let me know, and I'll call a hiring manager in that area if you find." So yeah, if you in those rooms and people like you, they will open up doors for you. Chime in on that struggle because I know you in those rooms.
No, no, like that's exactly how it is. I mean, I tell anybody if they're interested in a role, if I know you, and if you see that you have skill sets that are qualified, that qualify, yeah, feel free to reach out. And I have no problem. You know, those internal what are they called?
Yeah,
Referrals, internal referrals. Many large organizations have those. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I
and
think
it's
that's important.
networking too.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
if you take the time to know their subject matter issues, or get an idea, it makes you marketable.
Hmm.
yeah. And
Hmm.
two, and I think you're doing that B2B. And I talk about me and Gabe joke around. I'm an 853 stead guy, right? Now I can do some CIS. That's my bailiwick, right? So people need that. A lot of times people reach out to me because that's my specialty, right? Now I can do a ton of other things, but that's my calling card, right? So
Hmm.
Yeah, and just to kind of like add on to this is that sometimes when I go into certain rooms and it'll be for like a networking event, like I brought up Tag or Thai Atlanta or something like that. Like these groups are relating to technology, and it's not that many of us. So sometimes you just go in there and nobody will speak to you. So you really have
gotta
to be
speak to
like a
them.
yeah,
You
you got
gotta
to be
speak
like
to
a
them.
shark. You can't be introverted at
Oh,
all.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd be jumping in conversation other times too, but and two, it takes a because I'm old, it took me a while to figure out how to do that, right? It just didn't come
Yeah.
overnight. So a lot of times you listen to somebody because people are listening and people are jumping in. So if somebody say anything about 853, I'm in there, right? So the two
Right.
You
is
know, another. Yep.
go ahead, struggle. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say another little pro tip. I had went to a conference last year. It was with New York Metro Transit Authority. It was they were doing transportation cybersecurity. They had all types of entities there, CISA, MITRE, the FBI. They were giving kind of updates of what was going on. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know anybody there, and nobody knew me. You know what I did? After every single talk, I asked the question. And typically, when you ask a question, you start off by introducing yourself, what your role is, and what your organization is looking to get from this conference. So by the end of almost every session, people were coming to me saying, "Oh, I heard this and this about you, and you asked a very good question. Here's my card, blah blah blah," and then that'll help to spark up a conversation. So a lot of times, being involved in the questions and answer sessions of different conferences can really make you stand out in comparison to people who are just sitting there. Because again, like I said, I didn't know anybody there, nobody at all.
And
Oh
like Gabe
yeah.
said, a lot of times is, and I sometimes I try not to do it, but I don't step on the presenter's toes. But I will chime in and says, "Well, with my experience, we done this. What's your thoughts on that?" Right. So then they start thinking, and they be like, "Oh, that's an
Right,
excellent question." So now you and me.
right.
Then after a while, they answer the question and point to you, like I do. Yeah, you want to add something to it? Well, yeah. Well, yes, I do. Right.
Hmm.
And chime in on that, game. So that's
Yep.
kind of how I'm
Well,
doing. Well, what about this?
No, that's exactly what it
well,
is. Yep.
this is a soft skill that the armies gave me, with especially in the intel world. It's just basically you're just breaking. It's pretty much like breaking the ice board. I would just say, hey, as you're here ear hustling, just chime in and be like, hey, you ever thought about this, or how would you feel if you did this right there? You're kind of like giving them the option or something. There's a vernacular for it, but you're giving them
Hmm.
the option, or so that way they can ponder on it. You're like, oh, I never thought I could like that. And, did you go through the motions and say, be like, hey, look, in this cyber realm, this, that's how you have that circular, rapport right then and there. And then they know your face and be like, oh, that's see right there. That's how you create rapport and networking.
Yep.
And the
Because
other
I
Right.
The other thing B
realized.
to
Okay.
the other
Go ahead.
thing B2B is what you say is going to help you in the end. Nobody forgets me.
Mm.
I'm just gonna put out nobody forgets me. Go ahead, B2B. Nobody forgets me.
All right. I had here's a quote that was going around I heard recently. Is it said something to the effect of don't be so scared of what people think of you when you realize
Thanks.
how seldom they think of you.
Yeah,
Like most people,
Yeah.
like, when I go up and speak on stage and stuff like that, the majority of the people on the stage probably don't even remember what I look like or my name.
they
But
remember you.
then, those some people will come up to
Nope.
me and they may not remember exactly what I say, but they like, oh, I remember the feeling that I got when you went up there to speak about something. I don't remember exactly every word, but I kind of just get the gist of what you were going to say.
The cool thing is most people are nice to you on stage, but I appreciate you R Square for joining us. Um, but sometimes people try to show you up, so you got to be ready. Me and Gabe talked about that. It happens very few, but I'm a slice and dice you if you come for me because I understand what I'm talking about. But like
Yeah.
that very rarely happens, but every now and then people try to show you. But 9 times out of 10, people are nice, and a lot of times out of 10, if you're a little wrong, I'm just gonna kind of ease you back to where you should be. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody. I might say, well, let's check that
Yeah.
out. Let's double check that. I'm not trying to, unless you're trying to slice and dice me, right? So that's why I tell most times if you get on stage or present, people aren't attacking you. 9 times out of 10, people are not going to attack you.
And yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Let's see. I think let me show one more slide. So that's it. That's the my stride right there. This shows you the different attack vectors, and they give you the mitigation to prevent those. Once again, I'm gonna add those to study GRC risk register. We looked at that at the beginning, so they showed the risk. I went on did a threat model. I don't see. Do you see people doing threat models a lot, Gabe? I don't see people doing traditional threat models anymore.
Yeah. I've done it a part of other services as a component to it. Like, so you'll pretty much work with the customer in order for them to understand what our potential attack. Like, it's almost like a threat modeling workshop.
Okay.
So it's kind of more like bringing awareness to them and then giving recommendations. It's been a part of some services that I've done, but standalone services probably not.
Yeah, that's what I said.
There are some ones that are there. I'm in ICS and OT cyber, right? One is CCE. Have you heard of that? Consequence-driven cyber-informed engineering. Idaho National Lab has created this methodology for evaluating, I guess, more critical infrastructure cybersecurity issues in comparison to just like the regular IT stuff.
This is regular.
But yeah, that's kind of where I've seen threat modeling.
Okay. One weird IRS was asking us for threat modeling. I'm like, people don't do it. So that's the reason I did something like this. Because like you said, it was part of our ATO package, authority to operate, because we were getting data from the IRS. So for some reason, about 6 or 7 years ago, I had to do a threat modeling. So I actually used this probably 2 years ago. But like you said, it was in conjunction with other stuff, like you said, Gabe. It wasn't usually by itself. And long story short, I work with this group called Study GRC, and they did a risk register. So I told them the second step of a risk register is going through the threat models of your risk in your register to see what you need to do to mitigate them. So I was just chiming in on that risk register, like you said, as a part of their risk RMF type stuff.
I do. Well, if I have to explain something or get like my head on a swivel, like doing analysis, I use that diamond kill chain. What is that? A diamond kill? What is that? I forgot that diamond kill. You know what I'm talking? I don't know.
Like the CIA triad.
With the diamond. What I'm doing assessment on my adversaries and then my security posture. So I do that for if I had to explain something to somebody, be like, hey, look. Your infrastructure, here's the capabilities, here's your adversaries capability, depending on who it is, here your capable, that's how I break things down, because sometimes your client, or no, when I would say client, people need to have see the whole picture and the understanding what cybersecurity is. I always say it like this: cybersecurity is like your house. It's only as fortified as you make it and how you want it. Just pretend I'm a burglar or the sophisticated person who wants to come in. I always say your early warning is your fence. I would say hopefully if you have a fence, your fence. Then you have enough time to react. You have your door, your entrance door with the lock. So you go through there. But yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But yeah, long story short, you see it on the screen. We were doing account takeover. Regular system privilege versus privilege accounts, then regular business versus people could print checks and stuff. So even though you have account takeover, there's different accounts with different privileges that's going to give you a different level of risk for which account. So if your DBA, your SA account gets hacked, you're going to have a problem. You have a real problem. So once again, so we're just kind of walking to those different account takeovers. Then let me go through here, just kind of going through the stride technique. I'm a NIST guy, so this is the security families where the threat model apply to risk assessments, system servers and acquisitions, because you want to do these on a lot of services before you buy them. What risk they should have some of this documentation if you're looking for it. Security assessment authorizations. Once again, they were talking about third parties a minute ago. So how you do risk modeling for third parties before you start sharing data with them. And that's the stride: spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation. So high level, we just kind of went through each one of those. For that, it shows you the mitigation controls. Once again, I probably added to those guys Google Sheets. So that's kind of what we went over tonight. So just kind of delving in a few things.
So dope.
Like you said, and I don't see that a lot too, Gabe, is I don't see threat modeling as a standalone thing. We usually do it as part of a ATO package with all the other documentation that you need to turn over for an assessment. I
think the unique way that we've done it, and I used to do it at Mandiant a lot, is that we would do it in collaboration with we would do it in collaboration with the customer. So we would kind of go through a series of questions, try to understand what are some potential vulnerabilities based upon things that we've seen. It's almost like a storytelling thing. We say, well, we've seen in this other customer that's similar to your organization, this and this and that. Is that something that could potentially get, well, da 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 da. So then that'll kind of form how we put together like a little diagram, kind of how the stride method is, but we'll put together a diagram that kind of informs severity, impact, and the potential for it to actually occur. So yeah. It's actually kind of fun, man. Like I used to really like the threat modeling exercise that we used to do.
No, that's cool. Yeah, we used to, like I said, when I used to work with the IRS, we used to do it there a little more. But like you said, I very rarely do it as a standalone thing. Like you said, especially working with customers or agencies, like you said, that's kind of when we did it. And here at the end, I had a couple others. Oh shit. Of course, I think this is probably one of Gabe's MITRE ATT&CK. I might go out there real quick. Then OWASP had their threat modeling. I'm a big OWASP guy. So let's look at the MITRE one real quick. Let me share that screen, and we probably shut it on down.
Is there an OWASP top 10 for 25 already?
I haven't looked out there for 2025 to be honest yet.
It probably is.
I would think it is because they're usually on top of it.
Yeah.
Do they have they expanded it to cloud yet?
I thought I saw it out there for cloud. I haven't looked in a while. I usually, because I'm at AWS, they usually have their models out there already, so I just usually use theirs, to be honest. Where did I?
Yeah, because usually isn't like SQL injection always like usually number one?
It's been out there for 20 years. At least. It's out there. So yeah, that's the sad part. Sometimes I don't think we're getting any better. But there's MITRE. If you see MITRE's there, account compromise, which is kind of account takeover for them. So they kind of walk through their mitigations pre-compromised, and they have their detection network and social media. So you can actually drill down in there. I'm not going to drill down in there. MITRE is super detailed. So I usually start off with OWASP, maybe Stride. And if I really want to dig into it at another level, MITRE goes super deep. So that's it. So I try to put those three together, kind of make sure I'm covering everything. Let me grab this message out of YouTube. The only threat model I'm familiar with is Microsoft. That's the Stride. Should we know them verbatim from IT cyber purposes? I don't think you need to know them verbatim. I thought Struggle Security did a great job. You need to understand vulnerabilities, mitigations, different attack forms, because you can talk to them a lot of different ways. Like the guys from Study GRC, they just did a risk register. Account taker was over there, and they just like looked up a few things. Encryption, credential stuffing, then they put the mitigation. Now, Strad, what we did through it, it showed like 20 things to do it, but a lot of times you got to walk before you run. So as long as you're addressing it, chime in on that Struggle Security.
No, I was going to say probably just learn one, because the principles exist between all of the different threat modeling methodologies. So I did the same thing we used to do a threat hunting service too. I did a threat hunting service, and it's pretty much the same. You just pick one methodology, say, hey, this is the one that we're going to implement. This is the one we're going to use. And you just tailor it to the customer's environment if you're executing it for them. So,
yeah, facts. Jupiter, you want any of that?
No, he's touched on it, because like, why reinvent the wheels? Like, because I'd be like, okay, look, here's even could be a previous experience from your other companies that you work for, that whatever like policies that they had. I'd be like, oh, you know what? I remember we did it this company. Hey, how about do it like this, and then you just tailor it to how they want it, and then just add it. Don't even reinvent the wheel. The answers to the test is already there. It's just do it how they want it, and then just, like I said, don't reinvent the wheel.
The cool thing is, both y'all work for mature companies. You work for small and even small and medium. They don't have any of that. They don't do no threat modeling. They just try to survive, right? So you understanding that's going to actually bring you up to a different level. So
but
go Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, and like I said, the company I'm about to work for is like, look, I'm just taking what I knew from the previous company, but defense company. But like, look, I'm gonna bring this in. Hey, look, what about this idea? Like, what do you want to cut or add that will fit
Mhm.
to your company's need? This is how I got smarter now. I'm like, no need to reinvent the wheel. They're still paying me the high dollars. I'm just, hey,
Yeah.
this wasn't my idea. I'm just, well,
No.
it is my idea. I'm just bringing it in. So,
But it's
yeah,
an industry best practice. It's an industry standard.
yeah,
And hey,
yep.
I'm very familiar with this and exit. Yeah, that's what they're paying you for, man. They're paying you the
Yeah.
big bucks because they don't have to train you. They don't
Yeah.
have to
No,
have to do none of that. Yeah,
but I'm just
hit the
bringing
ground
someone
running.
else's, just bringing up someone else's ideas, put it in there,
Yeah,
and just
but that's what
twist it
Right.
that's
how you want it.
I ain't
Right.
doing nothing new. When I say this 153, them documents have been out there for 20 years, right?
Yeah,
Most people
absolutely.
just don't
Exactly.
understand them. So, right, your job, like Struggle said, is you have the expertise to implement them, and they're not at that level, right? It's a maturity game,
Yeah.
And
right?
that's
So
valuable.
so where you at on a maturity game, and two is part of the battle. It took me forever. Is what level of security can I bring to the maturity of the company? I can't bring you this 800 53 and everything, and you just starting out, right? You 1 year old
Yeah.
company.
Oh no.
That'll be so right. So you got to balance that. Let me get this guy from chat. Shout out to Chris Collins. Microsoft has an elevation of privilege card game, which is great for brainstorming threat modeling with the team. Yeah, I have to look that up, Chris. I see the one backdoors
Uh,
and breaches from a
yeah, I've seen that one
yeah. So
because I
that's the
think
one
that
I
one is.
usually see.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was finished. Go ahead. Go
No, I
ahead.
was saying I think backdoors and breaches. Isn't that for like tabletop exercises or is it for
It
something?
is.
Or is
No, it's
okay? Yeah.
tabletop actually for instant response. But a lot of times when you
Mm,
touch instant response, half of that is mitigating what's attacking you, right? So
right.
that's kind of where I look those together. But that seems to be super hot now. Everybody wants to run that.
Man, I'm telling you, everybody wants to have preparedness, right?
Yeah.
Incident preparedness. We were down in Guam just a couple of weeks back due to all the. So we have a lot of infrastructure projects within my firm for Guam. We're just building a whole bunch of stuff, and they had an interest in saying, "Hey, what do you guys offer as it concerns cybersecurity?" Because China has recently tried to use Guam, which is what is Guam? Isn't it a U.S. province or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's some geopolitical, it has some geopolitical value to it. So they were finding evidences of China hacking into Guam critical infrastructure, and they wanted some understanding of, hey, how can we prepare for when it's a bad day, if we get hacked? Well, when the hack happens, to be able to mitigate that. So yes, like you said, not only, I mean, incident response is extremely hot right now. It's extremely hot.
I did
Yeah, can
one.
I?
Go ahead, chime in.
Yeah,
BB.
I was also trying to see what you guys think. Does this also apply to AI?
Yes.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I see it
different.
less in my
Exactly.
area, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, look like we know it's AI is just a big database. It's getting data, right? You can poison it, right?
Yeah.
That's a little different, but how you protecting it, how you securing it, how you keep it on I did a video on that actually, B2B. If you bored. So from AWS standpoint, they want to make sure most of that stays inside your private network that you do in the cloud. They don't want you to send any of that to the internet because somebody can poison it and change your information. So from a security perspective, how do you lock that down? For me, it's just a lot more data that they're using to train, but protecting it and all that's to kind of a lot that's the same from a cybersecurity. Now, when you talk about poison data and making it come up with the wrong answer, right? That's the next level. But protecting your data, protecting your flow. The pipeline before the billions, it's just a pipeline before it gets to the AI and starts training. You got to protect the pipeline. So all that's the same. Chime in on that. What's your thoughts on that, Gabe?
No, I agree. No, I think you said it all. Yeah,
You
man.
want any of
yeah.
that, Jupiter?
The,
Jupiter's working. Go ahead.
No. I'm just listening, and I'm just
Okay.
yeah. It's well, like I said, going back to what I said, it's just like I think someone brought up with China. Well, here's the thing with this one
Yeah.
right here. I think
Uh-oh.
he said the man on the bottom said something about Guam. Here's the thing with China. Look, I think Israel has the best hackers, then North Korea, then North Korea, then China, because they have their own military. But I think
Don't forget about Iran too. But yeah, go ahead.
That's it's
Mhm.
your infrastructure. Your infrastructure, just like an old house. An old house ain't going to be able to stand much longer. It's just your
Right.
infrastructure and your practice. So that's the thing. You can. I always tell a company like, look, as long as you do the basics, make sure you kind of keep your infrastructure updated, you'll be fine. But
Yeah.
now, if you're going against a nation state,
Yeah,
adversary,
you
you're going to have to
toast.
be on your
You
p's and q's.
toast. You toast.
Well,
Just
that's why water has been such a emphasis for a lot of the like today's threat actors is because it
Yeah.
has older infrastructure to it, right? And I mean, how do you replace pumps that have been running for 10,
What are on
15 years? I mean, that
SCADAs
are
and
compatible.
PLCs?
Yes, SCADA. Yeah. Supervisory controllers, data acquisition systems. Like how do you those have a 10 to 15 year shelf life to them? So 10 to 15 years when they were installed, they were utilizing, right, those old protocols. They were utilizing old operating systems in order to run. And the
facts.
primary focus is operations. It's if it's working. The primary focus is not security. The primary focus is not if it's updated or upgraded. So it's very difficult, man. You really got, I mean, it's more of a layering, right? You have to add additional security controls in order to I guess compensate for that old infrastructure that you're talking about, that creaky, that that leaky pipe, that creaky building. That's
Facts.
because pretty much once you get in, I've done pen testing
Yeah.
and red teaming for like all types of critical infrastructure environments.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get into an ICS network
It's a
or
wrap.
that's it.
It's a wrap.
That's
It's
it.
because
You win.
I brought it up living off the land, just like with
Absolutely.
any Microsoft thing. It's like as long as I'm in, if I can get to a workstation, I'm just living off the land. If I get
That's
to
it.
those, if I get to the securities or the script right there,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna bounce around, and update my privileges, go lateral and horizontal. The
You
thing is, when
barely
there's
have to do that. Mhm.
that's it. Well, like
Yeah.
I said, the evil could get creative, but the thing is, with
Yeah.
we'll go to the Scuts next. But it's just like with the old systems, like the SCADA systems, all you
Mhm.
have to do is create an internal blue, yeah, eternal blue
Yeah.
type of script,
Yeah.
and it's a wrap. But here's the thing, and I think I touched on this last week. China has all the firmware, like
Yeah.
this is a previous like the docks. I don't know if you guys live close to
Yeah.
water,
Ports
like
and
the docks,
maritime.
the
Yep.
ports.
Mhm.
They control them. They all those systems right there. So it's like you're screwed. I hate to say it, and
Ship to shore cranes has been a big, right? What's that? Supply chain, cyber
supply.
vulnerability. Yep.
Yep. And if the supplies, and that's like I hate to say it. Look, if China wants to screw you, all they got to do is shut those cranes down, and
Yep.
choke you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a new thing. NIST has been trying to do is bill of sale. They want you to be able to track at the stations where your parts are coming from. I'm like, dude, we just ordering shit from
Good
Dell
luck
and
with that.
and
Good
doing
luck.
that. That sound cool. The cool thing, AWS gives you a bunch of documentations. I don't know if they're good or not. They look like they're doing something, so I just lean on their stuff. But
It's like this. Your engine may be built in the U.S., but your starter came from China.
Oh
How
yeah.
about
Yes.
so it's
Yes.
you can't get around. You can't get around it.
no, that's true.
Indeed. So
BDB,
you
you
gotta
got
do what you
anything
could
else?
do.
Oh, my fault. Okay. BDB, you
What
got
You
was
got
it?
anything else? BDB, you got anything else?
Yeah, PBO. I was asking this question earlier about AI, but then also the federal workers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Elon Musk's Grok AI may replace some federal workers' jobs?
What? Well, let's number one is I think they're firing people. They're not even thinking about AI yet, but I think AI, and I think me and Gabe had this conversation before. I think it
Mhm.
makes you more efficient. I don't know if it's gonna fire you, but instead of needing 10 developers with AI, I might need 6. So that means I'm not gonna need 4, right? Um, so I that's kind of my answer to that. Chime in on that, Gabe. What's your thoughts
No,
on that?
I absolutely agree. I think it'll. I think really, it's like our work is going to look different. I don't think it's so much of replacing people more than you using it to be more efficient. I think that the valuable people won't just be the people who understand the systems and know how to write the code or know how to solve the problem. It'll be those who know how to write the code and solve the problem utilizing AI.
And it's going to be that corporate speak, realignment or restructuring.
Oh,
So
oh yeah.
if you hear that term, just beware. Be like, somebody's getting the cut. So just that's
No, fact. So struggle security. Can you see my screen? There's a couple questions out there for you.
Oh,
See?
for me? Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Struggle security, in addition, 9 times out of 10, sometimes throwing a firewall in front of OT ancient ICS is all we can do. It's so difficult to secure those systems. Yeah, a lot of times, a firewall, mainly, a lot of times our recommendations come down to creating a DMZ, right? So kind of like a firewall that is owned or operated by IT, and a firewall that's owned and operated by OT, but then having that little buffer zone in the middle where there can be some latest and greatest intrusion detection systems. You can put in jump boxes, right? Those are intermediaries that if you have remote connections, they can go to the jump box, and then it provides an access into certain assets within OT, cutting out the direct internet connectivity between the OT environment and the internet. VPN solutions. I mean, that's a lot of times what is like the latest and greatest type of recommendations, is really creating a demilitarized zone where you're segmenting OT from IT and the internet, but at the same time, you're adding in some levels of security defenses. So yeah.
What's your thoughts? This is a new hot button. Well, it's not new, but I see this a lot. I know what it is from a business perspective. What's your thoughts on zero trust? That's deeper segmentation. That's the new hot word.
Yeah, I'm still. I'll say this. I'm still a novice in zero trust architecture. I'm still learning there. So come back to me maybe in a couple of months, and I'll probably have something. I'll probably have something for it.
Yeah, I've been implementing that in a lab perspective. Because it's kind of it's different. Like you said, I'm still trying to get my. I don't know. Microsoft had a great Slash when I did a couple videos. They go from basic flat firewalls, no, then they go what everybody has. Your standard 3-tier, then they go optimal, where they're going passless, and you log in from your location with your thumb, right? Which is optimal. So they were breaking it down from your workstation to the middle to actually where your databases. So they do it in those 3 areas. So I'll send, if I can find, I'll send it. I thought that was
please do. Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, Calvin, that's what we believe. It will not replace humans. It would just downsize the amount. Because I used to be a web admin, and we had 100 VMs and 200. We needed 10 people. I could do that by myself with AWS because it's spinning up stuff, tearing down, checking it for me, right? So it makes it a lot easier now with automation. I think AI with automation. I think automation without AI in the cloud is, downsizing people. Let me get this one question and get your thoughts on it. My man Dale Smith asked, do you guys have any advice in getting into cloud security with a niche in AIM? My thing is pick a cloud and a lab and get to search and just kind of know your craft. Once again, I'm AWS. I have 4 AWS certs. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think the cloud is now everybody's trying to go to the cloud. So that's my thoughts on it.
People go about certifications. I saw a video earlier today, and they was like, they don't suggest people get certifications as like the only thing to get a job.
They're 100% right. But what you got to remember, I got 20 years, so certifications to me just validate my experience in the cloud. My skills in the cloud going with my experience, right? So that's why I do it. I've been doing 800-53 on prem. People want you to have that cloud knowledge. So the cert says I know AWS, but I agree. If you just got a cert, you're not gonna get $100,000 a year job. You gotta have some skills to go with that.
Yeah, because people are saying they're doing more skills-based hiring, but then I'm like, well, the cert validates that you have the skills, but then I'm trying to figure out like how do you show that you have the skills if let's say you don't have experience yet.
Your portfolio. People's trying to show portfolios so they can go out there and see what you've done. A lot of people trying to volunteer for nonprofits so they can have something to put on their resumes to show that. I've been kind of working on I'm not pushing. I'm working on a course with Study GRC And in my course, this 853, I'm gonna have labs so you can build your portfolio. So you can say, I've done this assessment. I know what FedRAMP is. These are the
Yeah.
clouds. These are the FedRAMP zones in the cloud. So when you have an interview and somebody said, what is FedRAMP? Well, I know AWS East and West. I know Azure's got their government cloud and it's FedRAMP compliant, and we can run government workloads in these particular areas in the United States. And this is how we keep the data in the United States. So you can build your portfolio so you can show it to employer. And a lot of times, I don't know about y'all, I have got interviews off of my YouTube video. I had a $370,000 interview with AWS. I didn't get it, but I got the interview. So
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah,
that.
those as well. That having that network, man, we were needing to hire really fast, like late last year, and our primary way of bringing people on were based upon if they've worked with people on our team previous. So most of what our hiring was word of mouth, man. It was word of mouth from people that we knew that delivered good services currently, because we needed to put people on site. We didn't have time to do a whole bunch of skills assessments. We didn't have time to, do a whole lot of long interviews. We needed to put butts in seats, people on airplanes, and put people right in front of customers. So I think that based upon where organizations are in their hiring, I think that it's word of mouth, having good relationships with the people that you currently work with as much as you can, of course, having good relationships as much as you can. But that was really our major method of hiring people, where if they've worked with somebody on our team previous and they've had a good experience with that individual, somebody that can vouch for them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, Gabe brought up is you got to have that nomenclature so you can communicate with your colleagues and your customers. Because customers, I think sometimes they get enamored with verbiage. Right. I be in meeting, I like, this consultant just said a whole bunch of shit. It don't make sense, but the customer's like, yeah, he's so great. I'm like looking at him like, that dude didn't say nothing, man. It was just word salad, right? So it's good sides and bad sides. What you think of Calvin saying right there, y'all? Skills-based hiring is just a slick way to say they're hiring their friends.
Maybe.
Yeah, I saw a meme earlier today. It was talking about how they had some guys, they were American, and they were saying, oh, we want to hire like the best candidate. And then they had the other people who were from a different country. They were talking about how, oh, I want to hire more of my people. So then they keep trying to go through the cycle of, I want to hire the most qualified person, and then they keep hiring more people who are thinking, let me hire more of my people.
Yeah.
So the hiring board
and
turns
my
into
people. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, finish it off as saying the hiring board eventually turns into a whole bunch of people who just only want to hire their own people.
Yeah, but I think people hire people they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And
my people can look very different, right? My people might not even necessarily be the people that look like you. I know so in OT, it's a very popular methodology called, or a very popular industry standard called the IEC 62443, the industry for something, I don't know, something engineering something. They have subcommittees of individuals, committees and subcommittees of individuals who have worked to develop those standards. I know some people who won't hire individuals unless they've been on one of those subcommittees and have contributed. So that can be in some ways that those are my people. Those are my folk. Or some people are heavy within military. They're like, I need to bring on veterans. I need to bring on a veteran who's had this particular type of experience. So, but that might be where their comfort level is, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and I work with a Fortune 500 company, and they respect me. So we got in debate. They only hired Ivy League and Big Ten. I was like, dude,
that's their
people.
Cut out
90. Yeah, you cut out 90%. I'm like, Ivy League and Big Ten. I'm like, come on,
that's their
man.
people. Yeah,
but they were Fortune 500 company, and that's who they respect. And I worked on one department in a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company. They only hired Ivy League people. I'm like, dude, I'm a consultant. I just fell in here by accident. There, they liked me, so they were going to hire me. I should have took it when I look back, but. So their people, it could be different. It could be elitism. I call them elite. They were like, that's elitism, man. Y'all just hired Ivy League people. You can have a 4.0 from another university, and they wouldn't even look at you. Let me see when my man
Mhm.
security expert. Let me see this real quick. Zero Trust was published a PhD in the mid 1990s. Since then, I have not seen a good implementation of Zero Trust. The best one out
Mm.
there is Google. Google's done theirs from the ground up from Zero Trust. So that's why Google started getting a little more love. I've seen quite a few of those. I wouldn't say it was 100% complete, but like we talked about from the Microsoft right in the middle, they had the micro segmentations. They were going passwordless. They separated their machine from their identity and their session, right?
Yeah.
So my password and
Implementing a
my
lot of the
key, but
principles.
yeah,
Mhm.
but when you log in, it's checking, is my machine healthy? Is it the token? And is it in the United States? PBO ain't trying to take a vacation in Iran or something. So they separated those three, but bring those back together to give you a risk score. So I've seen some decent implementations of that. Go ahead,
Mhm.
Yeah, I kind of think I kind of lost my train
Mr.
of thought. I would
My
say
Well, we
like
can
bad,
talk
my
about
bad.
so
Go
many
ahead.
things.
Yeah, my bad. I'm
it's
coming
all
to you
good.
now, man. I'm coming to you now.
It's just I would say you're not gonna win them all, but always have that. I always well me in my experience, soft skills pay the bills. But if you know how to
Yeah.
if you know how to talk slick, if you know how to talk slicker than a can of oil, especially on this, at the end of the day, I'm just gonna be kind of real with those. They not your friends, but you got to find a way to exploit them and win them over just to get what you need to get to and
Right.
get that money.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
because I always say this company, look, your coworkers and your manager are not your friends. The people that you
Facts.
interview for, you're trying to get in there, win them over, be slicker, then stroke that ego just to get in where you fit in. And if you got to, like I said, if you're competing against everybody, you end up getting that interview or that job component, do the best you can, use it as a stepping stone, have your exit strategy plan, and get on up out of there. But
Yeah.
still do a good job, but at the same time, you have your exit strategy plan.
Jupiter,
Mhm.
when you say that, that really hits a note for me because
It's
I
the
don't know if
truth.
it, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but have you ever felt like people start using you because you got a new
Yeah,
job at a new company? Because
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah. It
yeah.
goes both ways, man.
Mm.
See, shout out to Gabe. He's married.
Reciprocity.
He's living a beautiful family. I'm old, man. I like to be around
I
tens,
mean,
man. I'm beauty digging before the billions, man. I'm ugly and fat, but I be around some bad. So it goes
no,
both ways, man. PBO
yeah,
old and fat, but I be around some bad women because PBO makes money. But
but I
I'm not gonna
mean,
take it down. I'm gonna wheel that back. Go ahead before the billions.
but I
yeah,
mean in this sense, like so people reach out to me and they be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
does your company do sponsorships or anything like
Oh,
that?"
fine.
And it'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, I tell them that I work at this company as a data engineer," and then they say, "Oh, man, we've been trying to get with them." Like my
Yeah.
old company reached out to me, the one who
Yeah.
the
yeah.
one who laid me off,
Oh yeah.
and they said, "Oh, hey, we're trying to get a connection with your new company. Do you mind
Okay.
giving us a hookup?"
Nah, I
Well,
just got here.
No,
didn't
I
y'all
just
just
got
lay me
here.
off?
Hey,
Way messed up.
hey,
Way
Listen.
messed
but
up.
Let's
yeah,
see.
before the billions though,
That
you
shit.
got to balance that
Hey,
though because, hey, they laid you off, but they need you, but you might need them later. I'm like the mob. I'm gonna do this favor for you, but I'm gonna reach out to you later.
Yeah,
I'm gonna, but go ahead on that. Y'all chime in on that.
make sure you're on your way
mm,
out. Then you hook them up, so that way you are long gone and they are already in. And if anything goes bad, you're not there. Be like, hey, I'm gone, beating feet,
Yeah.
I mean, or just don't just
or
ignore
don't
them.
tell
Leave them on red.
Yeah,
I mean, you
I,
can do that.
yeah, I,
It would.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially since they
I had an
laid me
interesting
off.
experience. Yeah.
I'm petty. Go ahead, Gabe. I'm petty. I wouldn't
Now,
do it
but
to you. I'm
I can be petty
petty.
too. I had an interesting experience where I was leaving. So I was going from one contract to another contract. And actually, while I was on that contract, I was working with a young lady who was like the lead of our group. And what had happened is that I had did some work and I had submitted it to her, and I don't think she reviewed it until like the next week. And but the issue is that it needed to be submitted to the manager before, I don't know, whenever she was ready. So she had threw me under the bus and said that, hey, he just sent it to me on like a Tuesday when I sent it the Friday of the previous week. She just hadn't reviewed it, right? So then so I did not like that. I called her out on it and everything, right? Our relationship was never the same because of that, because that really put me at risk. When I was leaving that organization, I went to a contract with a large energy organization, and I was the front runner. But then there were like 4 or 5 other individuals who had also been on the list. And they told me, hey, who have you? I see that these individuals you work with at your current organization, who would you want to work with again? And guess who name I see? That young lady, that young lady who threw me all the way up under threw me under the bus, put the tire tracks on me. It was a rusty muffler that was halfway on. She ran that bopped me in the head. Her. And I'm like, I would not. I didn't say that I wouldn't want to work with her again. I didn't like drag her or anything, but I just said, oh no, I prefer to work with this individual, which wasn't her. And I'm not saying I felt like I got my get back or nothing, but no, I would not want to work with her again. No, I do not think right. I do not think that was a quality work ethic, because we could move on to the other organization and she do the same thing again if her feet are to the fire. So, hey, I'm just saying, B2B, that's my experience of moving on and, having some bad experiences and just, doing what I feel like doing.
Like Gabe said, treat other people how you want to be treated, and because it could come back. And this industry is small, man. You think it's big, especially if you're in certain states, man. But Indiana doesn't have really big IT and big cybersecurity, so it's really small. It's really small for you in one state. It is,
and I'm not saying do what I did either. I'm not saying do what I did. I'm just saying that's what I did. I'm just saying that's what I did.
I would have ran over and backed up. You was nice with us, so I would never ever work with her ever again. I would have ran over. I'm that guy, man.
I would have destroyed the bridge, Blue. I'm gonna put C4 on the bridge. And then make sure you can't.
I was tempted. I was definitely tempted.
I'll even take the troll underneath the bridge and bring him where I'm at and be like, didn't blow the bridge. Shoot.
Hold on.
She just didn't have no reason to do that to me, man.
Yeah,
but
people get scared, especially when you say young people. I tell them, don't get scared, man. Real quick, Aiken said, what are hard skills versus soft skills? My man, security expert, said it. Hard skills, technical measures, super job specific stuff. Soft skills is personality, charisma, likability. And I put leadership in kind of in soft skills too. I see a lot of technical people who aren't good leaders. They're good technical people. So that's kind of my take on it, Aiken. So what else you got, B2B? You've been throwing out some good info before I shut it down.
Yeah, I just got a quick story because it's relating up to the same thing. But I had a guy I used to work with when I was an intern, and he really wasn't that good. I'll just be honest with you, he was not that good. And then he would ask me for referrals all the time, so I would give him a referral, gave him a referral on my LinkedIn and everything. And then one day he told me that he was gonna lie in the interview. And I was like, okay, you ask me for a referral, you gonna lie in the interview.
Careful how you do that.
And so I don't know what happened. He just like stopped talking to me or whatever. And then he hit me up today. It's been like 2 or 3 years or something like that. He's like, oh, how's everything been going? I'm like, you gonna ask me for something else again? Like looking for another job?
I don't know, Gabe. I think we had this conversation a couple times in a couple.
We talk about the lion.
I'm gonna call it stretching the truth. I'm not gonna call it a lie. I'm against it, and I'm gonna chime up first. I think Gabe had a different opinion of me. If I like you and I know you're young and you're struggling, and I've had probably 4 people do this. They lied and they got in there and they had no idea what they're doing. They called me like every week and asked me a question. But for me, I'm trying to help them, and I tell them you shouldn't do that. But they were so desperate to get in the industry, right? So I kind of gave them a little grace because they were getting tore up with assessments and they were trying to do that government verbiage, which is different. But once again, I helped them. I'm trying to when I go up to heaven, I'm gonna tell God I was trying to help them. What's your take on that, Gabe? That was my grace, trying to give a little grace.
I don't know, man.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going. Say it, Gabe.
I'm
Gabe was
just
like,
saying,
"Nah,
like
we ain't
it's
doing that."
just
Before
because I,
before you say that, Gabe,
yeah,
before you say that, a little
yep.
bit more context. I gave them a referral on my LinkedIn, but I asked them to do the same in return, and they did not do it for
Mm,
me. And it's been
Well,
Oh,
years.
oh
uh,
well,
boy,
So,
no.
I mean, I
so
think
what
they
do you?
made the decision for you.
Yeah.
facts.
Well, here's the thing with
I'd have
LinkedIn.
blocked them.
Well, see, LinkedIn is like I don't even like. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn every so often, but LinkedIn is like the Instagram, Facebook of. I don't
It
even really.
is.
I
It
think
is.
I
It
won't even
is.
post. I don't even want to post my jobs on there. I'd be like, no,
Oh, I
none of your,
don't.
none of your business. But here's the thing with the whole using your friends. You better know what you're doing when you're doing that. Because I'm putting it to you like this. Now, us military dudes, because we former intel dudes, we've been trained on how to do it. So
Hmm.
if you're going to lie, or say if you have like you need a reference or you have a skill set, make sure it's in comparison or somewhat that you know you could rapidly learn and do that. Or if you have previous work history or experience, just make sure the person that you're vouching for, you just better know how you do what you're doing when you're doing that. So that's all I can
Yeah,
say.
facts. Like usually, if
Yeah.
I do it, I'm gonna end up helping them in the end. So I'm signing
Yeah,
myself up for additional work that I should be. Uh, but I definitely got Gabe's point. And two, it's a certain individuals that I would do that for. I wouldn't do that for a lot of people, but I just think the industry's just so hard. I think people just get desperate. I don't know if that's a good excuse, but um,
Hey,
like I said, my
I
2 cents,
mean,
and I respect everybody's views on that, but just my
yeah.
take on it.
Yeah, I say people do what they're gonna do, man. I don't know. I'm not no career police, but I just know. I mean, from a hiring perspective, I wouldn't want anybody to falsify their experience or their background.
Facts.
Um, and then the thing is that we put people in front of the customer. Like we
Oh
put
yeah,
people that has the company's name on their back and really my
period.
organization that I'm responsible for. And I'm just like, yeah, let's just. I mean, we can work
No,
up to what that experience is. We can work up to that if you have a lot of the base qualifications. But if you just straight up lying, it's hard.
yeah,
It's hard to work with false information,
no, and
especially
especially in
yeah,
your consultant, like you said, it's different
man.
because usually when I'm doing, we working for a company that we work for, right? So usually they working in my org, so I can hire or I can assist you. It's different when you're going in
No,
front of the clients and you on the spot, right?
I
That's kind
could
of a
barely,
little
man. I could barely get on chargeable work. Like that's just not even a part of my any of
I
my
feel you. Yeah,
responsibilities anymore. Like, I can't even do
yeah.
no. Like I'll try to get down and get technical and do some work. They're like, nah, you cost too much to put you on this
No,
project.
Right,
no,
But
and then the
yeah,
skill set was easy. It
yeah,
was just learning basic SQL. I was
yeah.
like, why are you lying about SQL? You can learn like maybe a few weeks or two.
yeah, you
It's
get on
very
LinkedIn and get
easy.
you a SQL class. No, facts on SQL. I
Folks be
love SQL.
lazy, man. They be
Uh,
lazy. They don't want to do no work no more. Sometimes,
yeah. Hey, I'm gonna shut it
yeah.
down. Go ahead and do your Jupiter. You
Okay.
got anything to add for your
No,
closing
I'm about to get
remarks?
out. I'm about to get out. Have a
All
good
right.
evening.
All right,
BDP, you
fellas.
want
Peace out.
anything to
Yeah, I
close?
drop down
All
too.
right, Gabe. Thanks for
Uh,
joining me, Gabe.
Appreciate you having me up here, PBO. Thank
All
you.
right, I appreciate everybody for joining me. I appreciate everybody for joining me. We had a good dialogue in the chat. If you need me, just reach out to me. I haven't checked my email in a couple weeks. I've been working on this course. I'm trying to get done. So, excuse me. I'm gonna get back in my email and try to get that going. But two is Struggle Security's out there. He has a great channel, even though he hasn't been posting. He's been super busy, but he has a great channel. Before the Billions has a great channel. My man Calvin be on LinkedIn and other things, throwing out great information. Shout out to the Study GRC family. I'm usually over there on LinkedIn on their stuff. You can always reach out to me. You can add me in one of the discords I'm in, or at professorbblackops at gmail.com. Give me about a week. I've been struggling. I'm behind. Once again, I think thanks everybody for joining me. I'm out. Everybody have a great hump day tomorrow. I got some stuff I need to get done about tomorrow. I'm behind. Once again, thank everybody for joining me. You know how we do it. Let's see. Appreciate you. I appreciate you, security expert. Jeffrey Johnson, we got 2 hours in. I appreciate you. Aiken, LinkedIn user, absolutely one. I know problem. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn if you're on that side. I'm out. We're gonna be doing once again. I appreciate you, Chris Collins, digging in on that. This 800-53. That's my SME. I've been doing that for about 15 years. So we definitely diving. I have 800 videos. If you come over to LinkedIn and my LinkedIn channel, I have a compliance playlist. I think I got like 80 hours of compliance. NIS 800, CMC, HIPAA High Trust, GDPR, CCPA, just trying to build up that GRC level of knowledge. Once again, I want to thank everybody for joining me. I'm out. Everybody